The tarmac was already baking under the early light. Heat shimmered above the asphalt. Dust clung to every surface. 4 AH-64D Apaches sat in a staggered row. Rotors' idle canopies closed. Their Hellfire loadouts glinted in the sun. A crew chief double-checked a tail rotor moving with practiced speed. Another ran cables across the tarmac shouting for clearance. The flight line buzzed with small commands, clipped acknowledgments, boots thudding against concrete. She stood just past the safety cones. Captain Elena Reyes. Arms behind her back collar, neat boots clean. Her eyes moved across each aircraft in turn, slow and exact. She noticed a coolant leak under 3-4. A tech would spot it soon. The last Apache in line had a mismatched panel on its nose gear well. She said nothing. Across the flight line, a group of pilots walked toward the aircraft. Flight suits crisp, patches freshly sewn. Their helmets hung low from one arm like props. One of them nudged the other and smirked in her direction. Clipboard's here early again. The laugh didn't carry far, but the tone did. She didn't flinch. A junior pilot with Sergeant Bars approached holding a tablet. He stopped short, unsure. She didn't speak, just nodded once, barely perceptible. He adjusted course. Her eyes returned to the helicopters. She knew them better than anyone on the field. She didn't need checklists. She didn't need warm-up time. She could see the wind drift by, how the rotor tips hung. The skin of her forearms caught the shift in air pressure. Her hands remained still. A ground crew vehicle reversed near the third chopper. She stepped back, avoiding the dust trail. One of the pilots glanced over. Eyes met. His gaze lingered too long. Then he turned and climbed the ladder to his cockpit. Helmet on. No salute. She watched the process from a distance. Rotor blades began to spin, slow at first. A hum filled the air, turning into a whine. One by one, the helicopters awakened. Dust kicked up in swirls. She didn't squint. The lieutenant in the lead bird keyed his radio. She could tell from how his hand moved, not from sound. He looked back once, smirked again, then faced forward. The others followed him into the sky. Smooth lift, low ascent, quick westward bank. She stood alone in the dust, clipboard in hand, uniform pressed, expression unreadable. The morning brief was scheduled for 06:30. Elena arrived at 06:15. She always did. The operations board showed supply manifests stacked in colored clips. Her initials marked the ones already confirmed. Logistics routes to the Pakistani border. Fuel allocations for rotary wing assets. Medical crates packed to spec. She moved down the corridor, boots silent on the polished tile. The aroma of black coffee drifted from the corner office. Someone laughed sharp and nasal. She didn't look. A tech brushed past her without acknowledgement. The paper folder under her arm stayed pressed against her ribs. Outside, the sun was up. Her breath caught the scent of JP-8 on the breeze. She paused at the railing. The noise from the airstrip cut through the haze. Rotor blades not yet at full RPM. Not Apache. UH-60s warming up. Too light, too steady. She adjusted her collar. 2 fingers pulling the fabric tighter along the curve of her neck. A thin edge of ink rested just below the seam. Black lines, angular, worn smooth with time. She shifted her shoulders, burying it again. Specialist Torres was already waiting at the hangar, the youngest in his unit, always on time. He stood beside a line of Chinook's checklist in hand grease along one cuff. He looked up as she approached. "Captain, morning." His voice wasn't loud. He nodded without smiling. She returned it. His gaze drifted to the sky behind her. No birds yet, just contrails dissolving from a higher pass. "You hear the colonel's briefing got pushed again?" She didn't respond. She didn't need to. They walked the length of the aircraft together. She checked the tie-downs, the fuel gauges, the nose sensors. He noted her rhythm and copied it. She said nothing. He adjusted the torque bar on the second bird without being told. That earned a glance. He noticed. Didn't say anything. Farther down the line, 2 warrant officers were leaned against a maintenance cart. One tapped a stylus lazily. Clipboard back on patrol. Wonder if she even remembers how a cyclic works. The other chuckled. They didn't lower their voices. She passed without pause. Torres stiffened. She kept walking. At the third Chinook, she paused. A cable had slack where there shouldn't be. She traced it to the port connector, snapped it flush with one flick. Torres blinked. She moved on. The airfield was quiet that way. No explanations, no apologies, just machinery and the people who did the work. She ended her round by the fence line. The Apache helipads were empty, but the scorch marks were fresh. Her eyes lingered there, the way someone might look at an old photograph. Her hand rose again, instinctive to that collar. Torres didn't speak as she turned back toward operations. He followed, stepped in time. When they passed the lieutenants again, no one said anything. The wind shifted. A faint vibration passed through the soles of her boots. Chinook rotors now. Full spin. Operational tempo. She knew it without turning. Her fingers twitched once, brief and automatic. The echo of a throttle push. The memory vanished before it surfaced. She walked on. Clipboard steady at her side. Silence in her wake. The base came alive at 0700. The smell of burnt coffee oil and wet dust drifted from the motor pool. Ground crews rolled carts stacked with ammunition belts across the flight line. Techs moved with short, brisk steps. Orders clipped over comms, tight and tired. Pilots moved slower. They walked in pairs, never alone. Their uniforms were crisp boots, polished flight gloves tucked just so in back pockets. They made jokes that echoed too loud in enclosed spaces. The younger ones had something to prove. The older ones didn't look twice at anyone who didn't wear wings. Elena moved between buildings like a shadow. She carried a weatherproof clipboard, a stack of inventory sheets, and no expression. She entered the hangar's rear entrance while the officers used the front. Torres was already halfway through the manifest. He handed her the updated data without speaking. She marked corrections with a felt-tip pen. His eyes followed the shape of her notes. His hands adjusted his gear to match. An MH-60 sat idle near the perimeter, its tail rotor open for inspection. A young tech argued with a lieutenant about a hydraulic reading. The lieutenant didn't look at the gauge. He looked at the tech's patch, then walked off. Elena didn't stop walking. At the corner of the field briefing room, the morning chalk talk was underway. A projector flicked grainy maps onto a canvas screen. Routes, coordinates, expected contact points. The room was full. Only officers spoke. She stood in the back, not invited, not dismissed, invisible. A captain leaned into his buddy and whispered, "Clipboard's got a better attendance record than command." They chuckled. The slide changed. No one turned around. Elena didn't move. Colonel Hart entered. The room shifted. Feet straightened. Voices lowered. He pointed at a satellite image with a capped marker. "Watch for low SAM clusters west of Hill 214. We're seeing pattern overlap with last week's intel. Use radar sweeps sparingly. Don't burn signatures." Questions followed. Logistics, fuel, extraction points. No one mentioned ground maintenance. No one asked about thermal signatures on old fuel drums. No one asked Elena. She left before it ended. No one stopped her. Outside, Torres was checking a Blackhawk's landing gear. She handed him a fresh checklist. He nodded. His hands moved to the right panel first. She didn't say why. Two lieutenants passed gear slung over their shoulders. One called out, looking past her, "Ma'am, when's the next Clipboard recon flight scheduled?" His friend snorted. Elena's steps didn't falter. The paper in her hand didn't crinkle. At the flight ops board, her initials were already logged. Fuel load verified. Rotor torque adjusted. Radio check completed. She signed nothing. She just left the pen on the metal shelf tip uncapped. Behind her, the Apache crews were forming up. Their commander shouted roll call. Voices responded in staggered rhythm. They walked to their machines like they owned the air. Elena crossed the tarmac behind them, eyes forward, body still. A staff sergeant moved a crate from the edge of the taxi lane. She helped without speaking. They nodded once, nothing more. The sergeant returned to the shadows. She remained in plain view. The sun rose higher. A pilot barked into his headset. A blade turned once, twice. Full rotation. Noise drowned the silence. Elena stood near the perimeter fence, clipboard tucked at her side, wind in her collar, her rank stitched tight to the fabric, clean but faded. The tattoo below her neck pulled against the pressure. She didn't touch it. She faced away from the airfield, not in protest, in patience. The wall had been built long before today. She didn't need to climb it. She knew what was on the other side. The screen flickered once before settling on the satellite feed. Colonel Hart stood beside the map pointer in hand. He tapped the western quadrant of the valley, the zone marked Alpha 7. Recent drone activity suggests enemy movement along this ridgeline. We believe they're preparing another mortar run on Fob Ironwatch. Air cover will focus here. Officers nodded. Some murmured affirmations. A pilot in the front row leaned back, arms crossed, chewing gum like it mattered. Elena stood against the rear wall clipboard, down arms at her sides. Her eyes scanned the projection, then the terrain overlay. The timing didn't match. Too clean. Too easy. She waited for the colonel to finish the slide, then spoke. Sir, the last 3 heat signatures in Alpha 7 were decoys. Their timing follows a 72-hour loop. Real movement has shifted south, just below Ridge Echo, near the dry creek bed. The room froze. All eyes turned first to her, then to Hart. She didn't blink. Hart's expression didn't change. Captain Reyes, the intel team, has confirmed the location. If they were shifting, command would have flagged it. She kept her voice steady. With respect, sir, command's flag is based on a 2-day-old flyover. Ground temperature here. She tapped the edge of the screen lightly. Has risen 4 degrees. That's exhaust, not sun. The ridge is clean. The noise is a shell game. Someone shifted in their chair. A young warrant officer looked at her, then away. Hart's tone dropped. Captain, this is a tactical briefing, not a classroom. Let the field officers worry about the field. The silence spread. Elena said nothing. She didn't move. The next slide appeared. Routes, extraction times, flight formations. No one mentioned the creek bed again. The briefing continued for 11 more minutes. Hart dismissed them with a curt nod. The room emptied fast. Some walked by her without eye contact. One pilot gave a small shake of the head, more reflex than judgment. She picked up her clipboard, walked out alone. Outside, the air smelled like oil and wind. A rotor spun up in the distance. She watched the dust lift in spirals, then turned steady pace back toward the hangar. The Apaches lifted off just past 1,000 hours. 4 birds, tight formation, westward climb. Dust rose in slow columns behind them. Colonel Hart stood at the comm tower, arms crossed, eyes shaded by mirrored lenses. Elena watched from the edge of the hangar. No words, no movement, just the rising hum fading into sky. 9 minutes later, the first voice cut through the static. Contact, ridge fire, something's off. Then silence. The radio hissed. Another voice, sharp-strained. 2's down. Took a hit. Sam repeats, surface to air. Coordinates. The line cut. Ground crews froze. The radar technician looked up. No new blips, nothing climbing. Elena stepped forward. One motion, calm. She reached the secondary console. No one stopped her. Torres was there, eyes wide. She nodded once, firm. Switch to terrain scan. She keyed in the override manually. No access code requested. She pulled the satellite overlay scrub to 20 seconds past last transmission. There, a narrow draw west of Ridge Echo. Tree line just wide enough to mask a tail-in approach. She leaned into the headset, keyed the channel open. Echo 3. Pull east. Hug the basin wall. You'll see a scar on the slope. Drop below it. Use the crosswind from the left to ride it in. You have 8 seconds before your heat trail pings again. No questions. The base listened. A faint response came back. Female voice. Cracked. Acknowledged. Turning now. Hart didn't speak. His jaw locked once. 30 seconds. Then a new signal. One blip. Steady. Coming back in. The room held still. Someone whispered, "Thank God." Elena stepped back. Torres looked at her. She didn't return the glance. She placed the headset on the table. Walked outside. The sky was clear. The radio stayed quiet. When the Apache landed, tail rotor shuddering, smoke curling from its side, medics rushed in. The pilot staggered out. She looked straight at Elena, eyes searching. Elena didn't move. The others watched. No one spoke her name. But the silence had changed. The unmarked Blackhawk came in, low engines whispering under full control. No transponder, no escort. It touched down in the center of the helipad without warning. Dust spiraled up, coating the nearest Humvee in a fine layer of tan. Elena stood near the fuel depot, clipboard forgotten on a crate. She turned slow. No urgency, just instinct. The side door slid open. A single man stepped out. Dress uniform, no unit patch. He walked across the tarmac without speaking. Boots silent, every step measured. Hart appeared at the edge of the operations bay, his mouth open then closed. He stayed where he was. The man stopped 20 feet from Elena. Colonel Blackwood. He didn't speak right away. His hand moved to his collar, tugged it slightly. Just long enough. Beneath the pressed fabric, a black geometric mark. Angular. Precise. The same pattern Elena carried on her skin. She didn't move. He looked at her for 5 seconds, then nodded once. Behind him, the Blackhawk's blades slowed. Blackwood turned to the field techs nearby, pointed. Those two. Ready them now. The men didn't ask which. They saw where he pointed. 2 Apaches. One just returned from repairs. The other still marked down for diagnostics. He looked back at her. His voice barely carried. No oversight, no red tape. Do what needs doing. Then he walked back to the chopper. She didn't answer. He didn't wait for one. The rotors spun again. The Blackhawk lifted without delay. Colonel Hart said nothing. The silence stayed heavy long after the dust settled. Elena turned toward the Apaches. Torres was already moving, wrench in hand. She walked with him. Nothing rushed. She didn't look back. The first blast hit near the motor pool. Flames shot 30 feet. Metal shrieked as it twisted. Elena ran. Debris littered the tarmac. A wing panel skidded past her boots. Smoke rolled across the landing zone. She moved straight through it. No zigzag, no panic. Torres was already at the Apache. He had the panel open. His eyes flicked toward her wide, but his hands stayed moving. She didn't speak, just climbed the ladder. Switches, master power, battery, fuel valve. The HUD blinked. Her fingers knew the sequence. Each switch closed with a solid click. She didn't look down. The second Apache sat idle next to hers. Torres turned toward it, waiting. Take the second bird. Stay with me. Channel 2 only. He nodded. Rotor blades started slow. The whine filled the field. Another explosion. South fence this time. Small arms followed. Not organized. Still close. Elena scanned the panel. No errors. No warnings. Her thumb checked the weapon cycle. Hellfire's armed. M230 ready. She toggled comms. Base wide was static. Torres keyed his engine. The rotors of his bird began to turn. She looked over once. He caught her glance. No words. Just the signal. Her left hand eased the collective. The Apache responded. The feel was exact. No drift. No lag. They lifted together. A staff sergeant pointed up from behind a sandbag wall. Another shouted something. Too late to matter. The 2 helicopters climbed through smoke. Flames below. Black columns curling under the blades. Elena banked hard left. Torres followed tight. No radio, no orders. Just altitude, speed, bearing. The feel of command in her hands again. And silence in her cockpit. She was home. The pass narrowed fast. She dropped altitude. The canyon walls pushed wind across her rotors. She rode the drift barely above the scrub. Ahead, a convoy. 10 vehicles. Box trucks, technicals, one up armored. Heat signatures stacked in pairs. Movement shallow. They didn't see her yet. She flicked the M230 to armed. Hellfires primed, range short. She flew into the noise. First pass. Nose tilted. She squeezed once. The 30mm spat a tight line across the lead truck. Sparks. Shrapnel. The engine block cracked and bled heat. They scattered, late. Second pass. She rolled out wide, banked hard to the right, came around from the sun, fired one hellfire. Target hit mid-turn. Fireball. 2 bodies flew, one limp, the other not. Torres behind her. Call-outs fast tight. 2 runners down the east bank. RPG spotted near the ridge. He stayed high, covered angles, trusted her line. Third pass. She dipped below the ridgeline. Popped up clean. Took the shot. No lock. Manual adjust. Fired. Truck vaporized. Enemy scrambled for cover. Poor discipline. No formation. She pressed advantage. Rotor wash kicked up dust. Her skids nearly clipped a boulder. She moved like water downhill. Fourth pass. Short burst from the chain gun. A hillside gunner fell backward, legs folding. She pivoted left, leveled, then fired second hellfire. Hit rear of the convoy. Ammo cooked off. Torres swept past her, dropped flares, marked survivors fleeing north. She banked again. Fifth pass. Quick, precise, gun hot, truck doors blown wide, smoke everywhere. Comms stayed clean. She didn't shout. Just confirmed kills, vectors, ammo count, target zones. Torres called in tail heat, 2 more contacts flanking behind rock. She dropped low, clipped the draw, popped up from the blind side, fired, dirt lifted in sheets, 1 gone, the other staggered. She didn't loop again, just climbed steady, cleared the top of the pass. They circled once. Nothing moved below. Then silence. Only rotor hum. She keyed her mic. Area cold. Torres echoed it, his voice steadier now. They turned south, left the canyon burning. No cheers, no aftershock. Just the clean, cold rhythm of flight. The valley opened ahead, wide and dry. Checkpoint grid Bravo 6 sat between 2 ridges. Heat shimmered off the rocks. Torres called it first, spike left, 2 o'clock high. Elena dropped altitude. Rotor tips skimmed dust. Missile lock tone chirped once, then held. Flares out. Sharp burst. She banked right. The missile snapped past, missed by inches, burned out in dirt. Torres again. Visual on launcher. Far ridge. 3 silhouettes. 1 tube reset. She didn't reply. Just climbed. Manual select. Hellfire. Set to semi-active. Marked target. 2 seconds. Fired. Impact clean. Flash. Fragment cloud. Second lock incoming. Torres loud now. 6 o'clock low. Elena flipped countermeasures, dropped chaff and flare both, pulled hard left blades grinding air. Missile clipped the edge of a rock shelf, blew wild. She cut throttle, let the Apache sink below line of sight, climbed again on the opposite slope. Torres flagged a second launcher. North face. Camouflage net. Crew moving. Elena leveled. Range tight. Gun hot. 30mm burst. 4 rounds. Half-second tap. Dust kicked. The launcher split open. Bodies fell like sticks. No sound in her cockpit but rotor pulse. Torres steady now. 1 left. Northwest crest. She angled toward it. Nose tilted down. Climb, then dive. Sam launcher tried to swing. Too late. Elena fired. Single hellfire. No trail. Just heat and ruin. Torres scanned. Clear. She circled once. No new spikes. No movement. She keyed the comm. Bravo 6 secure. Route open. Silence. Then confirmation. Blackhawks inbound. ETA 4 minutes. Elena pulled out. No cheer, no flare. Just the sound of air and the machine beneath her hands. The Apache touched down hard. Blades slowed but didn't stop. Elena stepped out, helmet in hand. The heat clung to her skin. Dust swirled. The crew line waited near the hangar. Silent. Nobody moved. She walked past them. No nods. No glances, just boots on concrete. Hart stood by the entrance, his uniform crisp, shoulders stiff. Inside the lights were low. The operations table cleared. Blackwood sat in the corner, a folder open. He didn't look up right away, just tapped the cover once. Hart spoke first, voice flat. Your file was restricted. I didn't know. Blackwood pushed the folder across. Nightshade. 2 tours, 49 combat sorties, 27 confirmed vehicle kills, Silver Star, unacknowledged. Elena stood still, hands loose at her sides. Hart cleared his throat. I misread you. That won't happen again. She didn't respond. Blackwood nodded toward the second page. Promotion to Major, effective immediately, unit of choice, assignment open. She picked up the folder, scanned it once. I'll stay here. Neither man argued. Blackwood stood. You're operational again. No restriction. He extended a hand. She took it. 1 shake. Firm. Hart stepped back, eyes low. Elena turned folder under her arm. Outside, the air was cooler. Torres waited by the hangar. She passed him, paused. Start prep. I'll fly again tomorrow. He nodded. That was enough. The wind rolled slow across the airfield. No dust. Just the steady hum of a training cycle winding down. Elena walked the tarmac alone. Uniform crisp. Nameplate read, Reyes. Oak leaf now above it. 6 months since the valley. In the hangar, 2 Apaches idled, rotors slowing. A crew chief yelled over engine noise. From the far side of the runway, 1 bird dropped in. Smooth. Clean angle. Tight formation. The pilot stepped down. Young. Steady. Helmet tucked under one arm. She glanced toward Elena, once unsure, then straightened and moved on. Elena watched her walk. Just long enough. Torres joined her, rank on his collar now. Lieutenant Barr caught the sun. He nodded at the line of aircraft. New batch flies sharp. That girl top of the class. Elena didn't smile, just looked out across the line. Torres waited. She said nothing. A gust pushed across the concrete. Banners fluttered on the ops tower. The sun edged behind cloud cover. She turned toward the hangar. Another day coming. The kind that didn't need noise. Or medals. Just hands steady on the stick. And eyes that knew the sky. That was enough.